we will want called into this moment. And so just to give a general overview of what the veneration consists of for those that are unfamiliar. It's an acknowledgement of our ancestors through sacral blessing and libations as a spiritual offering or commemoration. Um, the sacral blessing is would be through the form of a call and response, where once the name is called into the space, or stated, I will say I say, followed by the audience will repeat I say to me, and then I will pour the libations into the plant here. Um, so I'll kick us off here in the naming process, um, and then I will pass it on to my fellow panelists, Lysithia, and then open it up to anybody in the audience who wish to call upon someone here. So tonight, I call in my transcestor, ZAC. I say.
Give me a second, my phone isn't, there it goes. I would like to call on Miss Frances Thompson, a trans woman who unfortunately endured assault during a race riot of what I believe to be 1864. Ashe? You got it, okay. I would also like to honor Miss Jackie Shane, another black trans woman and a soul singer who passed in 2019. Ashe. Miss Major Griffin Gracie, who passed this past October. Ashe. Miss Pepper LaBeija, a leader of and a founder of a ballroom house. Ashe. And a more recent passing, I didn't know her legal name, but a trans woman by the name and an influencer by the name of Girl La La, who passed this past November. Ashe. Is there any other honors that we would like to?
Feel free to.
Please feel free.
Sierra Marie Lewis and Claire Legato.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Miss Barbette.
Ashe.
Is there anyone else?
If that's all, I'm going to go ahead and
Hand it off to Dr. B.
want to go ahead and hand it off to
Thank you. Thank you all. My name is Dr. Beebe. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Awareness Building Manager at Third Space Action Lab. I'm really grateful that you all from the community, family members really, have taken time out to be here with us as we try to do something a bit different. And we really appreciate you taking time out to be with us. I'd like to thank our moderator. Thank you very much, Kat, for stepping in and being willing to support us in what I believe is a monumental event in the Black community in Cleveland, Ohio. And I'd like to also extend a heartfelt appreciation to the panelists for their courage and their willingness to share their lives with us and be vulnerable. And this liberated black space, a space that celebrates all black people, and that includes, in my estimation, black trans people. So, and that's right. So I'm going to open up with a few words that I put together just to get us started, and then I'll turn it over to Kat, and she can do her thing. We are currently in the throes of the decline of democratic norms and late-stage capitalism. These are defined by intense polarization, income inequality, political grifting, cultural erasure, authoritarianism, fake news, and the list goes on. This turmoil leaves one with a sense of being buffeted about on a vast ocean aboard a rudderless ship with an uncertain destination. It's easy to feel powerless under these circumstances. But this sensation only partially defines the state we find ourselves living in. I say partially because that is not the totality of our human experience. With all the chaos taking place, it's easy to lose sight of one of the most important things about being a human being. That is the sense of grounding that supportive personal relationships with other human beings can offer. That grounding also extends to the collective relationships we cultivate with other human beings in the black community. Black trans folks are members of the black community, period and full stop. They have historically been ostracized by the black community at large, as well as by most other communities, including the white LGBTQIA+ community. Just as there is unrealized potential in black folks who are not trans, there is also a tremendous amount of untapped potential in individuals within the black trans community. Dr. Tristan Hall, senior consultant at Third Space Action Lab, and I, in solidarity with members from the black trans community, present Bridging the Gap. Bridging the Gap is a step toward connecting two black communities. The panelists have been invited into this black space where we can be curious, engaged, and committed. We are indeed privileged to listen as they lean into their inherent wisdom and take control of their own narratives. In closing, we'd like to ask you to keep in mind that black trans folks are not a monolith. Everyone is unique and has the right to tell their own story. The individuals on this panel do not speak for all black trans people. They are sharing stories about who they are as unique human beings. During the discussion, please remain respectful, stay curious while remaining open to the wonder of and the range of black human expression. Thanks to Third Space Action Lab, Evelyn Burnett and Mordecai Cargill, co-founders, the LGBT Center, Mixed Juneteenth, the Young Latino Network, New Voices for Community Justice, Cardinal CLE, and any and all others who have helped make this event possible. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Kat.
Thank you, Dr. Beebe, for that powerful statement and grounding. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Katarina Smiley. I also go by Kat. I use she, they pronouns, and I am the Cleveland community organizer for New Voices for Reproductive Justice. Before we turn it over to our wonderful panel this evening, I want to take a moment for all of our organizational partners to introduce themselves in the space.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I'm Amaya. My pronouns are they, them. I work at Young Latino Network. I think I'm here more in a myself capacity, though. It's kind of unclear, but so I do the Raíces programming at Young Latino Network, which is our racial justice programming. I'm also the only Black and the only trans person that works at Young Latino Network, so it's a heavy lift, but it's fun. Young Latino Network is taking a very intentional turn in the right direction to make sure that all of our work begins and ends with Black liberation, because if it's not centering Black liberation, we're not moving at all in any direction. So what that looks like right now is creating systems of accountability and restoration for cross-cultural solidarity with the African American community, and also cross-racial solidarity between non-Black Latinos and Black Latinos. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm excited to hear from our panelists.
Hi everybody, my name is Jory Hopper, pronouns.
Can you give her the microphone, because it's being recorded?
I want my microphone, 'cause I'm Hi everybody, good evening. My name is Jory Hopper. I am from the LGBT Center of Greater Cleveland.
I heard you talking. I was like, let me come to the front. Hi, y'all. Sorry, Kat. Avery Ware, I use he, they pronouns. I'm the founder of Mixed Juneteenth. I'm a Black and Queer Liberation Celebration. I also work here part-time, so it's kind of seamless for me to be on this team. I'm glad y'all are here and coming out. You know, at Mixed Juneteenth, a lot of y'all are familiar with it, but if you're not, we celebrate, center, educate on everything Black queer. We do it from a place of joy and education, but also resistance, because they are not antithetical to each other. You're going to have joy and resist at the same time, so that's what we center at Mixed Juneteenth, and it was just a through line for us to be a part of this, so glad y'all here. I admire everyone on this panel. Yeah, and y'all hear from me later on towards the end. Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. Hello again. Bree, I use they, them pronouns, co-founder of Cardinal CLE or Cardinal CLE. Just a grassroots organization that centers the needs of Black trans people in Cleveland through direct aid, connection to resources, and community-centered events. So happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And so now we want to take an opportunity to hear from you all with our soul check-in, which is, what is a activity, practice, something that brings your soul joy in this current moment?
I can go first. Video game.
say for me, cycling or photography.
Cooking, lots and lots of cooking, mac and cheese and cookies and yams. Cooking, lots of cooking.
I'll say for me, I've been picking up a lot of heavy things, weight training, and I just be feeling strong. I don't know. It gives me a rush. Does anybody else want to share?
I second that.
Yeah, you feel me?
I'll say fragrances. Like
See about you later.
Right. Tap in. Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for sharing. I just wanted to say this before we got into our panel introductions. I know that between everybody in this room, there's probably less than 2 degrees of separation. So this is probably already on the forefront of our minds. But I wanted to say that Black trans folks are not an add-on to liberation. They are central to it. And as Black people, our safety and liberation has always been a collective effort. And I think that bridging the gap starts with conversations such as these, so we can continue in that same vein and spirit. And with that, we will hear from our panelists. Y'all want to introduce yourselves?
I'll go first. Hey folks, my name is Willow. Pronouns are she, her, they, them. Yep, my bio is up there. I identify as a second generation Great Migration baby. I think as I've been doing like research into my own genealogy, it's felt important to name that for the centuries that my family has potentially existed like on Turtle Island in this land, I'm only the second generation to live up north. And I feel like that puts into context like a lot of history. Yeah, I currently work at the LGBT Center as the Trans Plus Program Coordinator, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey. I'm Lenny. I use he, him pronouns, sometimes they, like how, why is sometimes about. Did anybody catch that? Oh, okay. Nah. Yeah, all that. I usually just say I'm around. I show up to the events. I take part in the workshops. You see me, you know me, you love me, all that. Thank y'all for having me.
Wagwan people, I'm Lysithia, and I'd like to think of myself as an organizer. For those that were at my Thanksgiving this past November, hi. I speak, I write, I have a Substack, follow me. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
Hello for the third time. I guess I will identify myself in this space first as a Clevelander, given that we're on the street that I grew up on, 105, St. Clair. Organizer. My current role, I wear several hats. You heard about Cardinal Cleta. I'm a co-founder of. I also work for a policy research nonprofit, and am a soon-to-be former facilitator for the Trans Plus Eastside programming in partnership with the LGBT Center and Central Outreach. Yeah, really excited about this conversation tonight. So without further ado, I'll pass it back to Kat to get us started.
Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. We're going to start with the first question of what does it mean to be Black and trans at the same time, and how do you experience it?
I can go first. To me, being Black and trans at the same time meant that margin that this intersection exists in was space for me to, I had no choice but to be authentic, which led to creation in a way. Like the same way grapes turn into wine, I turned into myself because I had no choice. There wasn't a name for, how I was showing up as a human being. So that's my experience.
That was a bar right there. I appreciate you sharing that.
I feel like for me, being Black and trans at the same time means being pretty fly. I think it means being ancient, being an architect of beauty, of what is new, what is lively, what has the potential for birth. I see Black and trans as fundamental, foundational building blocks of the world. And so to be blessed to embody this space it's fly. It's a blessing, ultimately.
For me, automatically I think of the metaphor of like having a spare change of clothes for after the Pride event because you got a family barbecue to go to. Wearing multiple hats because while you show up as yourself, no one actually truly wants you to outside of your own community with regards to the Black trans community. So being able and having to navigate, hey girl, I'll see you later, and hey uncle, how you doing? At the same time. It means being multifaceted out of necessity.
I would say for me, being Black and trans, the first word that came to mind when this question was posed was just possibility. And like what that has meant for me, and the experiences that I've had in my life thus far, in that like both identities are persecuted so much that to be Black and just live is just as revolutionary as being trans. So those two together, for me is like infinite possibility. To identify already as two of the most persecuted identities is like, okay, well, anything is possible for me.
It's a lot of great words I just want to highlight. I heard possibilities, I heard transformation, I heard the theme of alchemization, and just being fly. And I appreciate all the sentiments. And that kind of leads us into our second question, which begins with an Audre Lorde quote that reads, "If I did not define myself for myself, I would be crunched into other people's fantasies of me and eaten alive." So the question is, in that same breath, how do you define yourself for yourself? Who are you?
I am a human being having an experience first. A pretty boy second, right after that.
For me, like a vessel, you know, especially as identifying as trans non-binary, you know, to come into that identity, being a black queer kid from Cleveland, a black queer millennial at that. So, like it took a lot of it takes a lot of going. It took a lot of going inward for me, and tuning out the noise of society. Through the binary, everything is through the everything. So much is like either this or this, and you know it takes a lot of strength and conviction, and really like self-assurance to even to go beyond that and stand on that for myself.
Thank you for sharing that. Willow, Lysithia, do y'all want to chime in on this one?
Thank you. I would say in a worldly way, I would define myself as black, queer, non-binary, trans femme. I feel like those point to like nations that I belong to. My race is black. My sexual orientation is queer. My gender orientation is non-binary. And my gender in relation to my reproductive sex is trans femme. I feel like a lot of the worldly language that I have to define myself is largely based on gender through reproductive sex, or about like my biology, which says nothing about the essence of how I actually experience myself. So I would say, like, spiritually, as a spirit, I am a willow tree. My gender as my role in the community is a willow tree. My gender is a spiritual function of my belonging. And I think that is also a way of expressing gender that is very ancestral and indigenous to niggas, but also folks across the world, across the globe, who have relationships to the earth. In many places where we find trans people and queer people within indigenous communities, these are also folks who have explicit spiritual roles and functions that are fulfilled by the way they embody like on this earth and into physical form.
You was giving some poetry right there.
I feel like prior to a certain point, I used to identify as a problem. And now I feel like I've stepped more into a future ancestor role. I love to joke around with my friends in how we would conduct ourselves after we've passed on from this space. And a lot of my friends are strongly worded letter girlies. I'm not one of those girlies. But more than anything, I feel as though how it is I view myself is contingent upon the deeds and the legacy with regards to how I will be able to help my people at present and in the future.
Yes, thank you all. I feel like Each one of your answers sort of showed this, what Lenny spoke to earlier, this evolution of how this understanding of self has evolved over a period of time and will continue to evolve. I kind of want to skip over to this next question because we're getting into, especially Lysithea, you said like being a future ancestor, right? What is the vision you have for Black trans people born and living in Cleveland? And also, who holds the key to that vision? Can you speak to, I guess, support and barriers around achieving that vision?
Run it back one more time, because I heard you.
I got
don't
you.
think I heard you.
Yeah.
'Cause-
What is the vision you have for Black trans people born and living in Cleveland? Who holds the key to that vision? Can you name some obstacles and support?
For me, my vision is, it's heavily contingent upon, oh God, they don't like to be called this because they ain't but in their 30s, but the elders, those who are more experienced in the various courses of life that I want to take, who are able to give me some foresight. I think that is where a lot of the ball is being dropped in terms of just being able to connect, and this is not shade. This is rather half the time you don't know where to begin, how to start the conversation, who to talk to. But if I know one thing, I know that a community that is bereft of elders or its history cannot move forward because they don't know what was once behind them. So I think that with regards to a salient path forward, knowing where we came from is key to that.
Sounds like themes of Sankofa. Gotta know where you came from, right? Right.
To give a very practical answer, I see the future as Black trans people in Cleveland being well resourced, and with the ability to determine exactly what we want for ourselves. I think of trans people in the past who their only option for work was sex work, which was very dangerous, which is why a lot of them didn't make it to this day. And now we have certain protections in some spaces, but at the federal level that has been repealed, taken away. Sometimes at the state level they are trying to take some of these protections away. Some different companies or whatever. If your tea gets spooked, does everybody know what that means? No. Okay. So we're going to learn some new language here. I know the young kids are saying clock it now. I'll also define that. But to define your tea getting spooked, that means somebody finds out that your identity is different from what you were assigned at birth, which could be a potentially dangerous situation for some people, depending on what kind of work they do, and then that determines their quality of life, right? So we've come a long way, but in the future, I think we still got some work to do. As far as support, I think our community does a really good job, like Cardinal Clee for sure. They definitely reach out to me personally, see if I have what I need. We take care of each other. Some barriers, I'm not sure what I can name right now, but I do, for the future, I want us to be well resourced and able to do exactly what we want to do for anything, not just for work, but that was just an example, but just in general.
For Cleveland specifically, I see a vision of of all of my siblings having housing, sustainable housing. I see a redirection in investments and fundings. I see a defunded Cleveland Division of Police, and I see that money being redirected to our communities. I see wraparound services for our mental health. I see all gender bathrooms, and I see us no longer being the epicenter of black trans murders, which is what we are currently. Cleveland leads the nation in trans murders, and all but one was a person of color.
In 2024, I had the esteemed pleasure of learning about Beyond Identities Community Center, which is beautiful space right across from the AIDS Task Force. That is like their youth community center. I went inside and I saw a whole group, a little community of like black trans and black queer youth in there kicking it with snacks and books and video games, and it was private and safe. And I was like, this is really beautiful to see. And also last year, one of the folks I had met in that group also transitioned, as in like transitioned from this earthly realm, largely because of like not having a safe and supportive space to live. And that was really also like pretty devastating. When I think of black trans people born and living in Cleveland, I imagine power. I imagine a council of folks who have complete agency over what their experiences and lives look like.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that, especially in terms of power, because when you look around, because this is supposed to be bridging the gap, right? So we look around, and Cleveland is a predominantly black city or whatever, but like look at our city council, look at our city admin, and like even though like okay, it may be diverse and everything like that, there are no black trans people, there are no trans people that hold any positions of power in our local city government at all. Like, there's nobody on the Cleveland Police Commission. There's nobody in City Council. There's nobody in the mayor's cabinet. We don't even have any representation in the precinct committees. So in terms of like having that, not only having the agency but having the power to make decisions for ourselves. And I say all that with like all of those positions are positions within the system. So if we're talking about true liberation, then we need to be thinking like beyond that, or how do we upend it? And that's real.
Thank you for adding that, Bree. I think that my question is, maybe this is not one for the panel, unless you all want to chime in, but it's like, what are ways that people can like invest in that sort of community care? Because a lot of what you all name is rooted in what some would call like basic necessities: housing, safety, being around people who love you, respect you, care about you, want the best for your well-being. What are some of the ways that as we build this new world, a new way of living, and not just being an afterthought or an addendum, right? What is a way that more people can sort of invest in that?
Cash App. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. On a serious.
Direct mutual aid.
Can you say that into the mic?
For the people watching at home, direct mutual aid.
On a more serious note, I think one of the ways that people can invest, first and foremost, is I appreciate this panel. I appreciate my peers. And I appreciate those that were gracious enough to show up. Research, and then subsequent action. Because my peers and I are simply starting points. So learning where it is the state of Black, trans, and queer Cleveland is at and taking action on it. Because there is, God knows how many of us that are unhoused. There is, God knows how many of us that have been victims of assault. There is, God knows how many of us that are food insecure. Realizing the various needs, researching them, knowing the community to the best of your ability as an outsider, if you are, and then taking action as a result.
I also want to say reparations. I don't know, like, my experience is not as a nigga who has a living will or a trust or an inheritance coming, right? Some niggas do have that. I know there are plenty of white folks who have that. I was passing by on the highway. There's like maybe the salt mines, Cargill. Cargill's one of my family names. I'm like, how the hell Cargill get up here? Give land to Black trans niggas. Give homes, write a Black nigga into your will, leave an inheritance, and it's like with reparations. That feels good, and it shouldn't feel like the expectation of like whether it's right or not should not be if it feels good. It should be can I, am I, does this sacrifice align with the world I want to live in, with the world I want to create? I reparate with the what I do have. I do it when I can, and those are the questions I ask myself. Can I go without this? Yes, because somebody's about to go without their life, their meds, food, transportation. Like, so yes, it does not feel good, but does it align with the world I want to be in? Yes, it does. And I think like we need to continue doing that spiritual discipline, spiritual work, and labor to like part with consumerism and actually like invest tangibly and sacrifice tangibly for the world we want to see happen.
I know she's not gonna say it, but I will. Girl just casually sent me $50 one day. Like, oh, hey, thanks. What? Hello? You just throwing away $50. She's like, thank you. I was like, oh, okay. Well, you know.
That was from a T-Door here with Mixed Juneteenth. T-Door, thank you, Avery and Mixed Juneteenth, for the honorarium, $250. I was like, I have a full-time job, and I can give this to some of the niggas I know to celebrate T-Door. Because, amen.
Does everybody know what that acronym stands for?
TDOR stands for Transgender Day of Remembrance or Resilience. People have a contemporary play on the R, but it's for Trans Day of Remembrance is when trans individuals that have passed on are acknowledged. Yeah. No, that's T-Dove. T-Door is November 20th. Unfortunately, I remember because that is when Z passed on. Yeah. So to give my response to the question, in addition to everything that was already stated, along with the overall consistency of putting money in people's hands, universal basic income. like, there's cities that have implemented pilots around that, and just like, just literally like giving like direct money to individuals. And I think that, in an ideal setting, that, it would be universal basic income for everybody, but especially trans niggas, like, first and foremost. Another way to, draw those, I guess, like, connections to is, to garner support, is, people, like, we're a panel of trans niggas, but if they're supposed to be bridging the gap, like, like, I look out into the crowd, it is pretty diverse, but it could be more people here, it could be more cis niggas here, definitely. When we think about, like, all of, again, like, the resources, we talk about the black dollar, right? And we know that black trans people ain't got that black dollar oftentimes. So who has it? And why and how can that, that money be utilized to help trans niggas and center our struggle, to put everybody in a better position, but I feel like that, that comes with discipline. People have to have a discipline and a will to interact with, to engage with, to not think that, transness is a white thing. Like, I think about, like, my parents and my sister. I'm the only trans nigga they know and probably interact with on a daily basis. Like, for real. Like, how many, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people's family members and friends and stuff are y'all the only, or like one of two? And how many conversations are y'all having with them? And on a daily basis, like, what do they know, about the experience? To even begin to have stake in it. We talk about the 2020 uprisings and, police brutality and things like that, and the folks' names that was raised was all cis, Breonna Taylor and, George Floyd. But, in that same year, Tony McDade died. Black trans man. But where was the stake in, So I feel like a lot, the intentionality and education is a huge part of that. Like, we're talking about Cleveland, and close to 70% of the city is functionally illiterate. So how do we get the information to people in a digestible way? And yeah, I mean, to everybody's point around, just like the monetary investment, reparations, and the individual sacrifice that comes with that for the betterment of the community. I had came across a clip yesterday that really sat with me. A lot of Malcolm X clips been floating around since the anniversary of his death, and there was a statement that was made, and the second half of that statement, he said that, he said liberation always requires discipline, struggle, and personal costs. And that really sat with me, and it was just a really good reminder that liberation absolutely requires personal costs. Whether that's like giving up, bread that you could potentially use for something else, but somebody gonna go without eating, you know, whether that's like your time, you had plans to go somewhere, but you know, you got a friend that's not doing their best, you know, that may need to vent or just need time, you know, like, because in addition to all, like, over anything else, like, that's suicide prevention. Because let's talk about it, you know, like how much mental health has been the conductor of our black trans martyrs. And the reason for that is because of the sense of isolation and lack of community. But it starts with personal cost and personal sacrifice. Even if you're tired or exhausted, you know, even if you can't go some more, because it will save a sibling's life. And that's from personal experience. Rest in peace to Z.
Ashe. So much has been shared here, and I feel like a lot of practices, ideas that can be implemented can start today, right? And a lot of us are on that journey to becoming better co-conspirators, right, in creating this world. And so I want to ask more about what are some of the resources that people should utilize regarding Black trans leadership, etc., and how can we continue to follow in that path?
Audible, and spaces like this. You said, what are some resources that people could be utilizing? God, I keep coming back to research, but I'm still getting to know my own history. Audible, and Google is free for we don't know how much longer, but it still is. It's free. And a willing, emphasis on the willing bit, a willing community member that is able to sit and educate. Because while Google is free, my time is not. And I'm too broke to be giving it up for free. So a willing community member who is able to sit and give their hard-earned life experience and advice. Yeah, those are at least in my eyes primary sources.
I would say proximity. You know, everybody has a leverage of some sort. You know, based off your proximity and your position under, you know, this society. You know, beyond Google, public library, definitely the public library, and political education. You know, I feel like is key, is so integral to, and you know, to your point about like having a willing community member, I feel like a lot of times like our education is like happens like relationally, like in spaces, in interacting with each other, like in proximity, you know, to each other, and so like to that point, like they're the willingness, people have to be more intentional with like immersing themselves in community, like being more intentional about like going out, like, you know, even if you may feel tired, or and being intentional about seeing your commitment through, like with community, you know, like even if it is like showing up to this event, you know, like you may have decided to show up to the event, or you signed up for a virtual Zoom 2 weeks ago, and then 2 weeks come and, you know, you're not necessarily up for it or whatever. But again, like that personal cost, like that commitment, like show up anyway, show up as you are. Just show up. You know, and I that's all. That's really all I got.
Lenny, Willow, do y'all want to add?
If you are a black trans person in this space and you're comfortable being like visible, would you raise your hand? Period. These the niggas. Yeah. I just want to big up like living black trans folks, resources, and like keeping in mind that like a respect for to not be exploitative. I'm thinking about like the ways that we treat like our fresh water, the way that we treat our greenscapes. Like these are the same way we should treat the people in our community who have the keys to medicine. I especially want to big up Lourdes as a nigga who's in my group who I'm getting to know, and Lourdes is astounding, amazing. Someone, yeah, who's, I want to say silent threat. Lourdes may not always share, but like knowing you intimately has been incredible, and is somebody who has lots to offer. And people should respect that and honor that. And I feel like the best way to honor that sometimes is also like by seeding into people's lives, whether it be materially, with opportunities, with visibility, or a conversation. Like there are ways to seed into people. Yeah. Oh, also, I want to shout my library. I brought some books too. I feel like these are books that have impacted me like on my journey. I feel like finding evidence for transness and queerness, especially like in the black community, shows up like in our literature. It shows up in art critique, because that is where we see how people identified like the divine, how they like reflected the divine in art, and that is often where you would see instances of like gender bending and queerness. In the essays of our four leaders, yeah, books over there would be a cool resource too.
I immediately thought of a lot of Instagram pages and infographics. If everybody's on Instagram, then some that come to mind are Snap for Freedom, the Marsha P. Johnson Institute, the Okra Project. There's several creators that offer more information about their personal journey and just in general. So watch the videos if you can, slide through the slides if you can, and yeah, learn about policy as well.
I feel like all the resources here are something that if you're taking notes on, you can get started on this right away going home. I do want to do like a time check though. Are we good on time? Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you for enriching this discussion. I think the next question I want to know is addressing common misconceptions. This came up a little bit ago, Bree, in the response that you gave. But I want to know, what are some common misconceptions people may have about the trans experience that you care to address?
Oh yeah, I mean that's really like, you know, it's just like speaking from my experience, the one that like I experienced the most prevalent, which is like that is separate from blackness. You know, like even, and I'm speaking from experience of just like in conversations with other Black community members. When we are on the topic of like the LGBTQIA community, like it's never talked. It like literally, people will say Black and the Black community and the LGBT, like in conversation with me, as I'm standing in front of them as a living, breathing, like Black trans queer individual, and the connection just won't be there, and it points to, that misconception of, transness not being, inextricably linked to, our Blackness.
We don't want to be cis. We don't want to be cis. We don't want to be cis. We don't want to. One more time. We don't want to be cis. Also, we're not born in the wrong body. That is. Oh, I'm so tired of that anecdote.
Honey, can you say what cis means for everybody?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Cisgendered definitionally means. Oh God. And you think with half of an English degree, I would.
Google it right quick.
You see, Google free. Cis in and of itself is a Greek prefix. Leave it to the Greeks to cover anything concerning sexuality or gender. Cis meaning same, if I'm not mistaken. And
There's a correction. Latin.
I think it's Latin.
Oh, okay.
He's on the same side.
Yes, you are correct. Okay, thank you. The biggest misconception is that trans people want to be cis when in fact we want the same rights as is afforded our cisgender counterparts, even if those are being whittled away. I don't want to, quote unquote, be anything other more than who and what I am, and that is a Black trans woman. It's irritating to have a conversation and for people to think that I am aspirational to cisgendered womanhood when in fact I'm defining it for myself. So I'm not born in the wrong body. No. I don't want to be cisgendered. No. I don't really even care about passing. Which do we know what passing means in the room? Is there any?
You should define it.
Okay. So we have a rough definition of it in the Black community when light bright black folk used to seamlessly transition into the white world. In that same sense, to rewind to earlier what Lenny said, depending on the standards of beauty, where you're at, what you look like, passing is when you pass for a cisgendered version of the gender you identify as. So the politics around that are just, that's a whole separate conversation if there's a question asked about that. But me, I don't, that's not my tea, that's not my bag. Personally, I want to be me, and that is a Black trans woman.
Misconceptions. I know I've said nigga a few times, and that's purposefully because as a nigga, I don't owe you like a sanitized version, or I don't owe you any sort of respectable version. Like, I am a human, I deserve dignity, point blank, period. No matter what I sound like, what I speak like. And that goes for I feel like folks who occupy vulnerable identities have to perform decency to receive decency, or to receive resources, and that should not be the case. There is a line that I will place in the sand about, like, you're not going to talk to me out my name and still, but at the end of the day, like, that is not going to inform the resources that I make available, or the quality to which, like, I do my service or my job. That is always my goal, because also, as vulnerable people, like, there are reasons why someone might be having a shitty day, and it's not about me. I just met this person, so it couldn't be about me. But yeah, Black trans people don't owe any sort of like respectability to be worthy of dignity.
This was the only question that I really kind of struggled with to come up with a response. I didn't have an immediate like thought, but I'm gonna offer something really basic and say that gender and sexuality are two separate things.
There's a lot of learning going on. I think we're coming up on the end of our questions, but one of the ways I wanted to highlight not only how you all are defining and naming yourself, as well as demonstrating resilience, but I want to know, like, is there a story specifically, not just around survival, not just around the day-to-day aspect, but what does community care look like in all of this, and how has that aided in the joy that comes with being Black and trans?
Community care is slick and eye roll. I could roll my eyes, not because community care don't matter, because it do matter, and sometimes I am in my fucking feelings. I'm mad, I'm upset, I really don't give a fuck. I don't want to do it. And anybody that's done community care knows that, like, that's the tea, like. But it is like beyond that moment, it is still showing up. And I think it is the urgent job for any person who commits themselves into community care to find that answer if they're going to do it. And if you need time to find that answer, step away from it, because community care is a calling that anyone can answer should they choose to want to answer. It is a devotion. It is a spiritual labor, and it's not one that is taken lightly. To say that you will be the glue for a community, you will be the arms to hold it together in the face of a storm. Yeah, don't step into it lightly.
Can I get the question one more time?
Yeah, like, how does community care show up, and I guess in the joy part of it all? Or should we expand that a little bit? Is it just up to community care, or is that self-care as well? And what is the sort of juxtaposition between the two?
I was writing about this recently. Might release this on Substack, might not, but rituals, specifically for Black people, rituals of femininity and masculinity that we otherwise were not afforded. I know as a Black trans woman, growing up, I was not allowed to grow out my hair. I was not allowed to have certain types of clothes. I was barely allowed to even primp and preen the way that I wanted to. And I didn't even ask to get my nails done. And I just got my first set. I am doing my best to take care of all of this hair. And I know for Black Mask folks, that barbershop is something serious. And the relationship with the barber, I don't go to the barber anymore. I know you don't cheat. Okay, I didn't. But getting fitted for a suit, finding some good cologne, like it's those rituals of gender, specifically Black gender. Shoot, sitting on the porch with the uncles or kikiing with the aunties in the kitchen. These rituals for me are what care in conjunction to my gender looks like. Because growing up, I didn't get the privilege and misfortune of having to hold my ear on Saturday night, or the smell of Blue Magic on my scalp. That wasn't. I had sisters and I saw it, but I was removed. So I guess you could say for me that looks like parenting my inner Black girl, and healing her because she was deprived. That's just me.
I did want to speak to the joy aspect too. That like the joy is that like niggas are alive. That is a joy from community care. Also the joy that like knowing that like or trusting that the folks who witness community care in practice also are then able to take the lessons, because so much of my experience, and I'm pretty sure other folks' trans experiences, is starting from zero, no map, no blueprint. You just in the dark, figuring it out, what works. And it's like to be able to lay a blueprint, a rubric, a foundation for like what community care looks like in practice is beautiful, and to know that like other folks have the tools and do not have to begin their experiences from rock bottom. It's a lot of existential joy, like, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, to build off of what Willow and Lysithia were saying, I think camaraderie is very, very, very essential to anybody's joy. Not just trans people, but in general, camaraderie. I like laughing by myself, but it feels better if we all laughing together, you know what I mean? Sometimes.
Word.
And then, yeah, to speak to the rituals, there's some that, like me personally, I want to go fishing so bad. I ask every summer, and nobody would take me fishing.
What's up?
All right, y'all. Let's go catch some fish.
You said what? Okay, I think this is our last question. For anyone who has family members or friends who are trans but don't know what that means or what to say, what encouraging words do you have? For anyone who has family members or friends who are trans but they don't know what that means or what to say, what encouraging words do you have?
Seek yourself first. I think I want to build off what Bree was saying earlier. Definitely seek yourself first, and labels, community, everything else will align. but get to know yourself first, because once you know who you are and you're self-assured, you build that confidence, then you'll be able to continue on the path, and everything, it'll all come together. It's a journey and an evolution, and as you get to know yourself, you get to build your 3D reality, your presentation, whatever. Like, you'll figure it out. Take your time.
First of all, I want to say, if you don't know what to say, you're doing it right. Because I know too many family members and family members of friends who had plenty to say out the gate. So to build off of what Lenny said, learn what your gender demands of you. Learn what your cisgenderedness means, because a lot of cis folks take their gender for granted. And as a result, when they come across somebody that has interrogated it, they're floored. Learn how you have enforced your idea of gender on yourself and those around you, because that is going to be your ground zero for how it is you interact with your trans family member.
I want to build off what Cynthia said. I think curiosity has been really important for me with my family members. I think what Cynthia said about the investigation is really tea. I don't think we all trans, but I think we all will something. And I think the interrogation part is key, because you can be a man, but if you're a man because you like the color blue and football and derby, when all those things are questioned, then it's what? And I think that is the way that gender is constructed in this society. It's based off a lot of things that don't actually have to do with whatever gender truly is, which means a spiritual thing. So one, doing some self-investigation and interrogation, and just curiosity about life, what you've learned, how you've learned it, how did you become the person you are today, all those things.
I would say to show up for them, to talk to them. Talk to them about regular stuff. Ask them what they need, if there's anything that is needed. Just showing up, interacting with them the same way that you would interact with your other family members and friends and things like that. Okay, this is a panel of black trans people, but we still people, we still nigga shit. Talk to me about fucking 21 Savage. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Talk to me. That's been the, I guess, I'm only coming at this from my point of view and my experience. And so, my experience with my family is not as communicative as, other families may be. And so, the first step in, showing up for somebody is connecting with them,
Absolutely. And that is the end of our question panel. Yes.
Yes, I just have something I want to share.
I hope that ain't that.
Hello. All right. Okay. Yes, I'm Amaya. One thing I wanted to say, first of all, thank you so much to our panel and our moderator. Thank you so much to Dr. Beebe and Tristan for flagging this event, and to the LGBT Center and Mixed Juneteenth. And I'm representing YLN. One thing I just wanted to say that I feel like is so important for people to know if they don't know in the room or if they don't know at home, that gender identity and gender expression are two different things as well. Not everyone who is trans is transitioning to either be a man or a woman, and also transition is not always medical. Sometimes there's a spiritual misalignment and a spiritual dysphoria. Sometimes there's a social dysphoria that is not aligned with the way that you're perceived on a daily basis, and you may not know how to go about that. So I just want people to know that the trans experience, it's not so binary. It's not like, okay, I'm a boy or I'm a girl. Some people like myself, like Bree, like Willow, like Sophia, like Len, all of us, oh shit, non-binary, right? We didn't even really get into that, but like I do want to say that gender is so expansive, and if you find yourself fixated on what is in somebody's pants or what their genitals are or why they don't dress a certain way, you're focused on the wrong thing. There's so much more you could find out about people if you ask questions beyond those like basic instinctual kind of invasive questions. Like, that shouldn't matter to you. Like, it should matter more like what that means for that person and their lived experience. So I just want to say that myself, as someone who identifies as trans but is not medically transitioning, it is deep. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So we are not going to do a Q&A portion of this event, but we do have a call to action with some questions of reflection. These are generated towards individuals and institutions. So for individuals, the questions are, what am I doing to educate myself without relying on Black, queer, and trans folks to teach me for free? That is emotional and intellectual labor. How do I respond when corrected about language harm or impact? Do I become defensive or do I practice repair? How do I challenge anti-Blackness, homophobia, and transphobia in my family, faith communities, workplaces, and friend groups? Do I understand that none of us are free until all of us are free? Where have I been complicit when Black, queer, or trans people were harmed, dismissed, or erased? If you want to take a photo, send it to someone, feel free to do so. And then we have another slide that's focused towards institutions. Okay, these questions for institutions to consider. We talked a lot about generating resources and adding to material conditions. Who outside of our institution can hold us accountable? Who holds real decision-making power in my organization and who does not? I think this one is especially important when harm is named by Black, queer, and trans staff or community members. Do we censor impact or institutional reputation? And in what ways are we redistributing resources, access, and opportunities to Black, queer, and trans people? Questions to consider. And I think with that, we're going to highlight some events, upcoming events.
I would just talk really loud. Oh, thank you. We everywhere. Hey y'all, my name's Jazzy Rozier. Hey y'all, hey guys, I got some familiar faces. Yeah, so this show, Breakout, Be Loud, Be Different, is something that's been in the works for a few months. My partnership with the LGBT Center, my first exhibition that I got to curate. Lots of firsts. I'm very excited about it. So our quote-unquote closing exhibition will be this Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30 at the LGBT Center. So it's a Black History Month exhibition, you know, on the topic of highlighting the voices of the niggas. It's like, hey, we gotta get them out there. I'm like, hey, like I'm a Black lesbian. I'm like, I need to see some more everything. So so yeah, the show is very important to me, as somebody who's had a lot of drive of showcasing more Black talent and arts and poetry and everything within the Cleveland spaces. This was very exciting, especially for the LGBT Center to reach out to me, because we had done a partnership like 2 years ago, and they're like, we want you back, like we want you to do something. And I'm like, sure. So I'm very excited about this. Again, it's this Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30, and I really just like, yeah, I gotta see the Black queer voices, and we gotta, like, you know, we gotta have these conversations and exist in a space with like other Black cis people, because that conversation is like, it's always separate, and it's like, no, I'm here just like you, but you find out a little bit more about me, and you know, like, we was just friends, like, why not? Anyway. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. So please come if you can, and if not, you know, the show will be up. It's extended until April. So yeah, we here, we staying.
Okay, so this Friday, I'm going to be having a teach-in and community conversation regarding safety through my organization, New Voices for Reproductive Justice. I think a lot of times when we think about safety, it's something that in most folks' mind, it just kind of happens, but really it's something that we organize towards, and it takes a lot of intentional action to have. We're really looking to hear from community about how can we shift our organizational priorities, our programming, et cetera, to meet this moment, which is crucial. So we are focusing extra on mutual aid distribution, gearing away from high visibility like events per se, and more so like groundings and conversations such as these. So the location is private for security reasons. So if you want to attend, please scan the QR code. There's some on the tables as well, but I would love to see you all there. There will be food available, good food, not just, and we will also have a community care table as well. It's a take what you need, leave what you can model. So oftentimes we'll put up some funds to get cleaning supplies, laundry, detergent, just, you know, menstrual products, all the things. And if you need a ride, please feel free to reach out to me directly. We are able to provide some funds towards transportation as well.
Okay. No, there is another event happening on Friday, and that event is my birthday. So if you want to give me a gift, attend New Voices or attend Young. Hi, Joe. So attend one of their events on Friday. That would be a great birthday gift for me. But so we are starting. We're trying to get started the LGBTQ plus book club here at Third Space. So admittedly, we have tried before and haven't got a good turnout. By good, I mean we haven't got any turnout besides me. So I know it's brand new. The last one was in December, and this winter has been trash. So we get it. We get it. So we're meeting the next time on March 19th at 6:30. We are continuing with our Toni Morrison celebration, who is my favorite author. We will be reading and reviewing Sula. If you've read Sula, can you give me like a nod? You remember Sula? Yes. One of my favorites. Jazz is my favorite, but Sula is a close second. So we'll be discussing that. And I would be remiss if we said we have books for sale here. You can still buy books, even though we're technically closed. We are here to check you out, and we do have special sales for Toni Morrison books. There's also a sale here to buy two, get one free, I believe. That's it. Okay. So they thank you. They would kill me if I didn't say that on the mic. So, oh, and there are free children's books right over here in this corner. In that corner. In that corner. Thank you. No, doesn't for sale. See, I'm glad my coworkers are here. So if you can make it, mark your calendars for March 19th. Sula is somewhat of a quick read, and it's also a very good one. So if y'all can come out and come discuss with us Sula and her trifling ass actions in that book. There's a very controversial moment in the book that people feel different ways of. Me too, and I think she wrong as hell, but that's just me.
Support women's rights and wrongs. Thank you.
Wrong. Well, it's wrong depending on who you talk to. So who knows? So if you want to know what that's about, you have an opinion, come out to book club.
All right, y'all. Lastly, before we set you free, so sorry. We do have some book recommendations. These are some nonfiction books. If you're looking to, read a memoir or continue your education, maybe check some of these out. Take a pic real quick. We also, while you're taking pictures, do have Willow's Library in the back. So please make sure you're looking at those as well if you're just interested in what is out there and what you might be able to get into. I also do want to say that support your local libraries, please. Support your local libraries. If they don't have this at the library, you can request anything from your public library. You request that they get it in stock. You can request it on Libby. If you want to know more about the Libby app, talk to me later because I could talk all day about it. However, if you want a personal copy for yourself and you happen to have the funds at the time, we are also on bookshop.org/Third Space Reading Room. And so that connects you to a whole kind of like wide world of books that maybe we're not carrying in the shelves here. And so please don't go to Amazon and buy your books.
Side note, as somebody that has read and is getting through one of these books, read another, Black on Both Sides. Give her some time. That's some advanced queer, gender, and black theory. Theory, like the word epistemology is used. So, exact. Thank you. Listen. Have a thesaurus, a dictionary at the ready, and be prepared to not understand it initially. And Miss Major I cried. Miss Major Speaks. I'm still getting through that one. I haven't read it all the way through, but that's she's an elder that recently transitioned. Not an easy read. None of these are. They're all autobiographical of the Black trans experience. Proceed with discernment. Proceed with discernment.
We also have some fiction books. If you want to get lost in some stories, sorry, I meant to take that other one out. Apologies, y'all. We all make mistakes. But if you want to get lost in some stories, also a lot of these authors have multiple books, and I just didn't have either the space to put them up here at this time. And so feel free to check out the authors. Don't just look at the book recommendations. Check out all their other works as well. Multiple people are often writing more things that are great, and I have read some of the authors up here and their work. So, yes, that is really it for me. Thanks, everyone. Sorry, I'm not good at conclusions. But we appreciate you coming. Please take some food. Is there still food left? If there's still food left, please take it with you. Oh, yes.
Okay, can I have the panel come up here, please? You start a show. There you go.
No, I'm not.